My son has asked me a few times, Dad, will you design a house in Minecraft with me? Now my son is my client. I started drawing homes in elementary school. So I've always had a genuine interest in architecture. Part of the interesting thing about our profession is it's our job to take an idea out of somebody else's head, put it down on paper, and then essentially sell that idea back to them. 50% of licensed architects in our area are going to be retired in the next 5 years.
50%.
Architecture, I don't think is going away. Architects are definitely not going away. The architects that aren't using AI, they're the ones that are going to go away regardless of their age. You look at prices of homes and you see that $150,000 of buying a home is really just permit costs and state fees and whatever else it may be.
And then I realized, because they take a percent of that number. That's why they want that number to be higher.
That's exactly what it is.
It was the most weirdest thing I've ever seen.
And I remember when I got the architectural set on that project thinking, who is building this home? I had the opportunity to work on a food bank in Rancho Cordova. That is the project that I'm the most proud of. The meaning that it's going to have to the community, the dignity that it's going to add to people's lives that need that kind of assistance, and they get to walk into a store just like everybody else and grab whatever they want. Never had somebody ask me so many questions. Maybe part two.
Part two, yeah.
Part two.
Sure. Well, Nick, I just want to thank you for coming on. I think
Thank you.
I'm going to enjoy this conversation.
I'm looking forward to it.
Same here.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because most of the architects that I know, or home designers, drafters, most of the guys are either way older than you or they're really hard to work with. They're very particular about certain things, and in some ways, sometimes people say a little awkward, very introverted, So you're different. You're young. I just saw that you were in the what is it called? 40 under 40? Is that what they call it?
I did.
In Sacramento?
Yeah, I got 40 under 40 and most admired CEO.
Wow.
I don't know what their gauge for admirement.
I think it's your look, your smile.
Apparently.
How can you not admire that?
I know. I wasn't going to argue. I was just going to accept the award.
Well, that's cool. So for the audience who don't know who you are, give us a little bit of your background. What do you do? Who are you?
Sure. I own a company called Grayscale Architecture. We're located in Roseville. And I started drawing homes in elementary school. I mean, all my friends, everybody's drawing dinosaurs and astronauts and whatever else. And I'm drawing buildings and homes. And so I've always had a genuine interest in architecture. My mom was a home designer and my dad was an engineer. Still an engineer. And so I was always surrounded by that. So I always, was fascinated about how buildings got put together and how the design process worked. And so grew up around architecture, got my first job in 2007 at an architecture firm that only did residential. So as you can imagine, 2008 was a little rough. And, during that time there, I still did some architecture, but I got into retail management for a while. And that's how I learned, to work with people and to mentor people. And did that for a few years. And then my son was going to be born. So my girlfriend at the time, she got pregnant and it was time for our son to come. So I'm like, I'm not going to spend the very first New Year's and Christmas and Thanksgiving in a mall. And so I called some of my old contacts and one of them said, yeah, come on back. You just have to learn a completely new software because things have changed since we worked together, 6 or 7 years ago. So I measured my house and downloaded a free version of the software and just drew my house up a few different times. And I caught on pretty quick. I mean, it's not an overly complicated software. From there, worked at a drafting firm for a few years. Still have a really good connection with that guy, and he's actually been a family friend for a long time. He's known me since I was really young, and worked with him for a few years, and thought, I've learned what I needed to learn about design. I need to now learn the other part of it, which is the engineering side of things. So I got a job at a structural engineering firm and worked there for about 5 years and moonlit things just on the side to help some of the engineers out. I'll get your project done for you, but you got to redline my plans and tell me how these things work and how it goes together. So did that for a few years, learned the engineering side, and then thought, okay, now it's time, start my own company and do architecture and engineering in-house, because I think that they go hand to hand. And that's where I'm at now.
So since 12, you always kind of knew that this is what you want to do?
12 was when I started being paid for what I do.
Getting paid?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So, well, again, my mom was a home designer.
Okay.
So my allowance money was $25 a sheet to draw plans. I wish I could pay people $25 a sheet now, but unfortunately it doesn't work that way. So like we were talking about earlier, now that my son's 12, I got his resume, and he's going to be making a little more than $25 a sheet. But yes, since 12, I knew, okay, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to put time and energy into. And this is a career path for me.
Did you have any like inspiration when you were young, like different well-known architects or designers?
Yeah. So obviously my mom was my biggest inspiration. Seeing how she navigated design, how she, when I was drafting sheets for her mentorship and her coaching through different design styles, different techniques, was very inspiring. I remember even as a kid, she would have all the markers and stuff. We don't use any of that now, but she would have all the box of markers, and, I would see her like working on her plans and coloring them in and all that kind of stuff. So I would say the most impactful person was definitely my mom. And then aside from that, obviously Lloyd Wright, Frank Gehry, some of those other well-known architects. Frank Gehry especially, because his process is really interesting. There's a master class on it that's actually pretty entertaining. Well, entertaining for me. I don't know if it would be entertaining.
Okay, so what is his process?
His process, so essentially to design a building, he just crumples up paper, puts the paper out, and then uses that as his inspiration to start designing structures. So when you look at some of his buildings, there's a few in New York, and then the Disney Opera House, I think it's the Disney Opera House, down in Southern California, where it's got kind of the unique like turns, and all of that is from crumpling up paper.
Wow. I remember the first time I saw a home that was designed by Frank Lloyd Wright.
Frank Lloyd Wright.
Like like every time I see one of his designs, like you just know that it's his. Very, very unique, interesting, like super wide overhangs, glass, like I don't know. It's like his design is mostly, what's it called? Prairie
style.
Prairie style. Yeah.
Yeah. He was kind of the pioneer in that, which is really interesting, because you think, is there any more architecture that can be pioneered now? What is that next style? What's that next design? And that's why, we've worked together, or whoever I work with, I don't follow that traditional, it has to be these types of windows because historically it was these types of windows and this style of house. I think that architecture is starting to morph into something more creative and something more unique. Not that it hasn't been creative or unique, but what's that next stage of
Yeah,
architecture.
I always think about that too, because
Right.
I, being in real estate
Mm-hmm.
and also building homes, like I always think like, okay, what's going to be that next design? Because when you look back, let's say, 100 years back,
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the homes, they looked very, very similar,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like there
Mm-hmm.
wasn't like, now you look at all the different designs and how some designs have been blended with maybe like two different designs, some
Mm-hmm.
elements of that design in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like completely different. So
That's what makes our industry exciting. That's what makes things exciting, because you look back, let's just say 20 years. I mean, we've had the big Mediterranean wave, right? Where
yes.
everybody wanted
Mm-hmm.
Mediterranean homes. Then it was modern farmhouse. Now I think it is starting to morph right now into more industrial slash, um, it's kind of hard to describe it. Lots of natural materials, raw materials,
Mm-hmm.
more stone, simplicity. So it'll be fun to see, what people come up with in these next few years.
But I always wonder, like, certain designs, like, are they just a trend, like a temporary trend? Like, for example, I still cannot get myself to like the mid-century modern,
Mm,
like some of those homes that you see, the smaller homes, like in areas like Carmichael, some Citrus Heights, some Fair Oaks, they have those small homes,
mm-hmm.
the mid-century modern homes that were built like in the either late 70s or early 80s. And I just, I don't get that design at all.
Yeah. It's funny you say that, because again, that's what's interesting about our job, because design is so subjective,
Mm-hmm.
right? So if there was something timeless, it's timeless for certain people, but it's not everybody's taste,
Yeah,
right? So
yeah,
I think there are certain designs, like very traditional designs, um, that are timeless. I definitely think that there is a space for that. But again, design's subjective, changes for everybody. So,
yeah. I don't know if you've seen this. There are a few homes that were built maybe in the last 5 or 6 years in Folsom. You
mm-hmm.
can see them when you're driving up 50,
Mm-hmm.
going towards Placerville.
Mm-hmm.
On the left side, there's a couple hillsides.
You're talking about the multifamily ones, or the ones that are a little further up?
No, they're single family homes.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're single. It's
Right
right
next
off
to
of
the Costco.
Broadstone, Costco. I think it's
Right
it's
at
really
Costco.
close to Palladio.
Okay. Yeah.
So as you go up 50, like it's that exit, Bidwell, East Bidwell exit. The reason why I'm asking, because there was one home that was on the market a couple years ago,
I know what home you're talking about.
and it was the most weirdest thing I've ever seen. Like
Yeah.
and somebody I think built that as a spec home.
So it's funny, because when I was at the structural engineering firm, we bid the structural engineering for that project. And I remember when I got the architectural set on that project, thinking, who is building this home? And of course, if it's the same one that we're talking about, where it has kind of that big center column and the home kind of cantilevers
Yes,
over, and
yes,
there's a big
yes,
column and it's all kind of on a second level.
yes.
Um, our fee was very high on that project, because it is a complicated design. And, you know, somebody out there, I'm sure, loves it.
Well, this is just my opinion. Like,
Mm-hmm.
there are certain homes designs. For example, you take French country or the
Mm-hmm.
Mediterranean or Tuscan style, right?
Mm-hmm.
Spanish, and you can make it, you know, a little more modern, with like current colors, like something that's like more popular, but you can still take that design
Mm-hmm.
and build something, and it's going to look beautiful, and
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like, in my opinion, it's kind of like evergreen.
Mm-hmm.
But then there are certain homes out there that you don't understand, like, what was going on in like the person's like head, when like,
Yeah.
why this, like, is that like, oh, I'm gonna just build something so ridiculous that everyone's going to be talking about it, whether it's negative or positive, it doesn't matter. because to me, like, there's beauty in architecture, right? You can really express a lot, but then there's things that are designed that they maybe for some people it's they can say it's nice, but there's just really no character. Doesn't really, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, part of the interesting thing about our profession is it's our job to take an idea out of somebody else's head, then take that idea, put it down on paper, and then essentially sell that idea back to them. Because, people will give us inspiration images and things like that, but there's still so many hands in the pot once it goes and translates to actual construction. And so with a design like that, it was one of two things. It was either one, an architect who said, I'm going to pioneer that next kind of version of home, in which case, it kind of reminded me of like on Beetlejuice when they redo the house and all that. It was either that or it was the client that said, I want something very unique. I don't know if there was a design in somebody's head that then got translated into what that ended up becoming.
I see.
Because how does somebody explain that?
I don't know.
Right?
I don't know.
And so I think it's more the former, where there was an architect who said, let me run with this. Let me create something unique. Let me pioneer, and let's move forward with it. And if it was a spec home, I mean, that really limits your potential market for buyers.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's risky.
It's very risky.
Very risky. Yeah.
And, but it did get a lot of publicity.
Yeah.
I mean, I've seen memes about it. I've seen, articles about it. So it did get a lot of publicity. And, in my time working with different people, I've designed homes for people that are house collectors, where they just want a different style of home and they might not even live in it. It's like art to them.
Yeah. And then that's different for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what is the main difference between someone who is architect and then someone who's like, who can draft homes or design homes? Because I remember I was doing a project maybe like 7 years ago, and I was talking to the design review, and I mentioned the guy's name, and they're like, and I said, my architect, and they're like, no, he is not an architect.
It is illegal to.
Okay.
Yeah, it is illegal. So that's a great question, because it's often confusing, because both of them can draw plans, right? So a draftsperson, that's their sole responsibility, is to draw. I have drafts people on my team. And there are some exceptional drafters in our area that are excellent at design, produce a great set of plans. There are some exceptional individuals out there, but for the most part, a draftsman, they're the ones that you hire if you already have a design in mind. Let's say you already have a floor plan you've sketched out, you already have some pictures or images and designs and floor plans, and you just need somebody to produce a set of documents to get you through and get you a permit. That's what a drafter does. Now, the difference between an architect is, one, there's much more rigorous there's no testing for a drafter, but for an architect, there's 6 national exams and then 1 state exam. So you have to go through and you have to know mechanical engineering, plumbing, mechanical, electrical, plumbing engineering, structural engineering. You have to know the science behind a building. When I was studying to take the exam, I had to figure out where's the dew point in a wall. If it's hot outside and cold inside, is there a dew point? What part of that wall is that dew point, so I can make sure there's a vapor barrier there? So when you've gone through that process of taking these exams, studying, you also need years of experience, college education. There's 2 routes to it, which a lot of people don't know too. The first route is you go to college, you get your degree. It has to be an accredited, program. And then you can take the exams and all that. But you can also take the exams just through experience, which is the route that I did. And, but anyways, back to my point is as you go through that process, it allows you to do much more than residential, right? It allows you to do commercial, 3-story residences, because a drafter can only do 2 stories with the basement. An architect can do whatever else. So again, just to kind of summarize that is the drafter's job is to draft. An architect takes a holistic view of the entire approach. I had a meeting earlier today where we're trying to figure out pad elevations for development that we're doing. And I told the civil engineer, send over your topography so I can start laying some of these things out. A drafter isn't necessarily going to look at that from that approach or really understand the ins and outs. Not all of them, some of them might, but for the most part, they don't understand like how these things really go together. It's more of a capacity of, okay, give me what I need and I'll draft this up, give it back to you.
I see. Okay, so when you get approached by potential clients, right? How do you determine if the person is the right fit for you or you're the right fit for that person? Because sometimes I think that I don't know how you go about it, but I'm assuming there are certain projects that you probably maybe pass on to someone else and say, you know what, it's not really something that I really want to get into. How do you determine that?
Is this somebody that I want to work with for the next 2 years? I mean, that's really all it comes down to, because most individuals, going back to kind of the difference between an architecture and a drafter's job really is done when they're done drafting. An architect's job is done once the occupant is in place. Sometimes even after that. Sometimes there's a year check-in after where you go through, you make sure, and in the commercial world, you go through and make sure the HVAC systems are working properly. And so the amount of time that you spend as an architect with a client, that's what I base it off of. Is this somebody that I want to work with for the next however many years? And some projects, I mean, we've had residential projects that were in and out, a few months. We've had some projects that are 2-3 years. It really just depends. And at the end of the day, it's, their vision and their building and their investment or whatever it may be. So I'm more than happy to be there with them throughout the entire process. But, and we have weekly communication cadence and, meeting out on site. And is this somebody that understands and values what I'm providing? That's what I'm really looking for, because if they view what we do as a jurisdictional kind of red tape, oh, I just need this because I need a permit so I can start building. Those are usually the ones that we don't want to work with, because there's no passion in what we're producing.
So what kind of designs really excite you? And then what kind of designs you're not really motivated to do? Are there like specific designs that you're very passionate about?
Anything new I'm passionate about, because, going back to kind of the trends over the last few years, I've done so many modern farmhouse designs. I've done so many Mediterranean designs before that. Anything new where somebody comes to me and says, I want a mid-century modern, that wouldn't be you. But if somebody says, I want a mid-century modern, great, let's do it. Because it gives me the opportunity to really look into, like, what are some of the characteristics of mid-century modern or Napa Valley farmhouse or whatever it is. And it creates more of a challenge. I think that when I've designed homes or designed spaces, commercial, retail, whatever it may be, if it's repetitive, it's not really a challenge. And I think architects inherently love a challenge. I mean, we're problem solvers. It's our job to play lawyers and read legal code and interpret that code and then put it down on paper and, design something with it. Sometimes we're a therapist working with a couple on their home.
Mm-hmm.
We play all these different parts. And when you start doing something repetitive, and I've done a couple franchises, and franchises are nice, but they're not really a challenge,
It's the same
So
thing
it's
over
the
and
same
over.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then in the residential world, it's, if somebody says, we want to design something bespoke, we want something that is custom to the individual.
Mm.
And that's been a challenge too, because sometimes we have people go, I'd like to see some examples of your work. Okay, I'll show you some examples of my work. Just keep in mind, these were unique to the individual themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I think, is going back to something we talked about earlier of, there's architects out there that aren't easy to work with. It's because in our profession, if you have a specific style and you have a specific design and it's easy for you, you can move through projects much quicker. And so when you get a client or when you get some pushback or, hey, I'd really like to change this or that. No, I'm the architect. This is my design. I want to put my name on it at the end of the day, take the pictures, put them on our website, whatever it may be. And, but for us, I love the challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And there's projects out there that I wouldn't necessarily say, I designed that one. But the clients were happy at the end of the day. And for me, that's all that really matters.
Sure. So like in general, where do like certain home design trends come from? For example, let's say a new design emerges, and then all of a sudden you see more and more homes like that pop up. Do you know like where do they come from? Is it like in Europe or it's all here in America? Like
that's an interesting question because I don't think I've ever really thought about it before, but there is definitely different styles of architecture in different parts of the world, different, even in the United States. I mean, you go to Montana, they have a unique type of architecture. You go to Tennessee, there's a unique type of architecture. There is unique types of architecture out there. And I think it really just takes, somebody to go to one of those places like Montana, say, I really love this style. And they start taking pictures and they bring it back. And then I think from there, it just spreads because, most people, they have friends and family over, and that's really all you need is a couple people to come over that go, I really like this style. This is cool. Who is your architect? I want to design something similar to this. And then from there, it really just spreads. Most of the clients that we have that all want a similar style were all somehow related. They were usually friends or family. They knew each other in some kind of capacity. And it always ended up being the same kind of style of home. It's only the people that have found us organically, either through Instagram or website or anything like that, where we start to get some different types of design.
Okay. Yeah. So when we look at homes that were built, in the 90s, 80s, 70s, most of the homes were very like broken up, like compartmentalized, right? You come in, you have your little entry, then you have living room, formal dining room, and then you go through a hall, whatever, and then you have your kitchen. Sometimes kitchen is like really closed off, and then the family room, right? But lately, I would say like in the last maybe 10 years or so, the thing that has become very popular as far as like the layout of the home, the floor plan, is an open floor concept. And I mean, we're, in real estate, and I would say like 90% of buyers who come to us and they're looking, they say exactly that phrase. We want an open floor concept. Do you think that the way homes were built in the past, where everything was kind of chopped up and enclosed, do you think that is going to somehow make its way back, or do you think the open floor plan is here to stay?
I think it will make its way back eventually. Now, I mean, there's techniques in design about movement through space and compression and expansion. And there's an amazing book called Form, Space, and Order that kind of lays out why architects used to compartmentalize things much more than they do now. Now, we still achieve a lot of the same intent, just through different methods. Articulating the ceiling, doing some articulation in the floor, adding columns, defining circulation through lighting. There's still things that we're doing that create that compartmentalization.
You mean instead of a wall? Is that what you're saying?
Okay. Yeah. So it's still that emotional feeling of separation. It's just not defined by a wall. You look at some of these 70s and 80s homes, and you'll notice that the ceilings in the hallways are shorter than the ceilings in the rooms.
Like 7 feet in some homes.
Right. And we've done remodels and they tear it down and go, there's nothing even in here. Why were they doing this?
Yeah.
And it's because they were compressing, because then when you expand into the bedroom, it creates a much more impressive emotion and a much more, it's more exciting. It's almost like creating anticipation between the spaces. And again, I think we still do a lot of that now, just not with walls.
Just not with walls, yeah. Mm-hmm. How do you think is it important to match the floor plan with someone's lifestyle? Or do you think people kind of, get used to whatever floor plan they have, they just get used to it, and then they end up just going with it?
That depends. So one of the questions that we ask when we're doing our kind of client workbook that we give to people if they don't have any idea on what they want to do, we have a workbook, and one of those primary questions we ask, is this a forever home? Or is this a home that you're planning on selling in a few years? Okay. Because then it really is going to make a difference. Now, if it is a forever home, then absolutely the floor plan needs to match somebody's livelihood. How are they going to interact between the different spaces? Where are the kids going to hang out? What's going to happen? Where are people going to be when they entertain? And different cultures have different ways that they need floor plans laid out. Mm-hmm. Different cultures have, some cultures, they want separate rooms for, social gatherings for men and women. Some of them want their homes arranged in certain ways based off of directions like north, south, east, west.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. So if you're going to build a custom home, build it, to your lifestyle. And 90% of our job is asking questions. So what does your morning routine look like? Do you grab coffee in the kitchen? Do you get dressed in the closet? Do you hang your clothes over the shower so the steam, lots of these questions that we ask, really gets us to ultimately designing it to how the person functions. Now, if they're going to sell the home in 5 years, I'm going to design it to how they function, but I'm going to remind them, hey, if you're going to sell this in 5 years, I highly suggest that you don't do X, Y, and Z, or we should probably do whatever it may be.
And people usually listen.
Sometimes. Sometimes. That's one of the challenging things about our job, right? Is people are spending a lot of money to do this. For most people, it's going to be the biggest investment they make in their life.
Oh, yeah.
And so there's an element of trust the process because I've designed hundreds and hundreds of homes. But there's also, an expectation that, this is a stressful process. It's my job to make it less stressful, but it is a stressful process. And it's so easy to feel like every decision you make there's so much weight to it. When really at the end of the day, there's not a lot of weight to 6 inches moving a wall left or right. Mm-hmm. You're never going to know, I really wish, that I had that extra 8 inches or 10 inches of whatever it may be, or I really wish that this was, just a couple inches over there. Like some of these decisions, people really scratch their head over. And what I tell most of our clients too, give me 3 inspiration images of things that you love and stop there.
Yeah.
Because the second you continue looking,
it's just going to continue on. And on.
And you start to get design fatigue.
Yeah.
Because you go, well, what about this? Well, what about that? And am I making the right decision? And it's my job to go, you are making the right decision or you're not making the right decision. And here's why.
So I'm really curious to hear from you. Like, you've designed so many homes, you've seen all the different floor plans and designs. Do you have like a floor plan, your dream home floor plan? If you were to like draw it right now.
I have it in my head, but I'm hesitant on putting it down on paper because I think that's going to be, if I put it down on paper, I'm probably going to keep that momentum going and build something. I don't want to build something right now. I'm waiting a couple more years. I kind of want to see, where things are heading, but I do.
But you do, okay.
I absolutely do. And I've had one kind of primary floor plan that I've had in my head probably for the last 30 years.
30 years?
Oh yeah. I mean, I want an atrium. I want a home where kind of my perfect floor plan is almost like this U-shaped home where public space on the right side, public space being kitchen, living room, all that, private space on the left side, and then the whole center of it is almost like an atrium. Windows all the way around, trees in the middle there, and really feel like kind of that indoor-outdoor feel. Kind of like if you go on vacation in tropical places, right?
Yeah.
I mean, their architecture's designed around, we're going to keep all of this open 9 times out of 10, or 9 months out of the year or whatever it may be. And so that indoor-outdoor feel, that's the dream.
So besides that, what other features are for you are like non-negotiable, a must?
I'm very like techie. I love tech. I love AI. I love anything to do with, surround sound, projector screens, home audio, all of that. I think what we're seeing with innovation in smart home, like this has to be in our home.
Okay, so
I want the robot in my home. I want all that stuff.
So what was like one of the craziest features of like a smart home feature that you've seen recently?
Well, recently we had a client and they wanted smart home blinds. And so that way they could open and close the blinds on different times of the day and just to block out the sun and things like that.
Okay.
But it's not revolutionary, but it was something that I was like, oh, this is going to be cool. Because when I come home, I can say, hey, Google or whatever, do this or that, and it can do things in my home. But I don't have smart blinds yet. So I'm going to get those now.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as like the smart homes go, it's really interesting to see how AI and the technology, like everything put together, like how it's actually going to affect homes, like let's say 10 or 20 years from now. To me it's interesting because I'm sure that there's going to be a lot of progress in that. And I'm just thinking like, man, it's like almost like this home here that you live in, it'll come alive, like and
it's going to be very interesting. And then from almost like a sustainability part too, I haven't had anybody ask me for like an ultra sustainable home or anything like that yet, but there are some really cool things you can do with using the earth for cooling down or heating up water, geothermal properties of the earth that you can use. There's also things like it's called a trombe wall, where there's glass and then there's concrete on the other side of the wall. And so the glass, the concrete absorbs the sunlight, it'll heat up. And then so at night, the concrete releases the heat. And then during the day, it absorbs the sunlight. So it helps keep the house cool. So there's lots of things like that I would love to put in a house as well. But back to AI, I could talk about AI. That's going to be really interesting for our industry over the next few years. It will definitely affect our industry. And I don't think people fully understand how much it will affect our industry. back to a point you made earlier about our architects that are older. I'm part of the AIA Central Valley. There's civic engagement team. So, I'm having conversations around policies, and then I'm part of our membership engagement team. So, trying to help younger architects learn more through the AIA, which is an like an organization. And 50% of licensed architects in our area are going to be retired in the next 5 years.
50%.
50% was a statistic that we discussed in one of our calls.
Is that because of where they're at in in age?
In age, yeah.
Okay, so what does that mean for you? I mean, but at the same time,
it's great for me.
It's great for you, but at the same time, when you say AI that is going to have an impact on your industry, do you feel like in the future people will be able to design their homes just through AI?
I think that will happen eventually. However, I think architects are still going to be needed because, like I had mentioned earlier, 90% of what I do with a client is ask questions. I'm not sure how much you use AI, but you don't know what you don't know.
Exactly.
So if you go in there and you can prompt it and say, act as a world-class architect and ask me questions to help me design the perfect home. I'm running it through it all the time. It's definitely not there yet.
Sure.
But there is a time where it will be there. However, it's not going to be to the point of thinking about that kind of holistic approach that I had mentioned earlier, right? And in order for it to get there, the person utilizing the tool would have to be very knowledgeable in what we do. So architecture, I don't think is going away. Architects are definitely not going away. The architects that aren't using AI, they're the ones that are going to go away regardless of their age.
So how are you using AI right now?
Code research, code interpretation, project management, email summarization. I have Claude in my email, and if I need to pass off kind of a status update on exactly where we're at to somebody else on the team, I can tell Claude, comb through every single one of my emails for this specific project and give me a chronological time frame as well as action items, to-do items. Here's another good example. I'm currently interviewing, and I recorded every interview with AI. I took the transcript, I brought it into AI, said, this is the position that I'm hiring for, gave it some criteria. Here's 5 different transcripts. Let me know who's the best candidate and why. That's not architecture specific, but it's business owner specific, right? Now, architecture, quick iterations of design, because presenting lines on paper is very difficult for some people to digest. I'm looking at squares and rectangles and, text and what does this actually look like? So very quick iterations. I used to have to sketch 3 or 4 different things. And here's what it's going to look like with your tub and your shelves on either side. And, whatever the inspiration was, I would have to sketch and iterate. And I still do that. Lots of custom home meetings. I have paper in front of me, blank paper and pens and paper, and I'm sketching. Most of the time during these consultations or even just client meetings, I'm sketching. But if it's remote or email or, I need a quick Teams call or something like that, I can type it in. I can get a quick rendering of something. I can take a screenshot of an exterior of a building, and I can say, let's do a light color palette. Let's do a dark color palette. Because people get hung up on colors and materials a lot too, when, we're just trying to show like massing and scale and all this.
Yeah.
And there's actually a really cool company now in Rancho Cordova, and that's helped us a lot because we've always done the VR. You put on the VR goggles and you can actually be inside the home and look around, and everything's to scale. But it's still difficult because you don't have that peripheral view.
Yeah.
So even though it is to scale, right? You're standing next to your countertop. You can put your hand on the table and it's the same height as the table in the conference room. It doesn't feel to scale. And so there's a service in Rancho Cordova where the plans can get projected on the floor to scale. But the flip side of that is now you can't see how high your ceilings are. And you can't see some of those accents, some of those views we really want you to see. Like when you look down a hallway, there's a window at the end of the hallway, and we really want some landscaping outside of that with a tree. You can't see any of that.
Yeah.
You can see it with VR. So it's kind of like you need a mix of the both. AI, going back to that, it's going to change things.
Yeah. So I want to shift a little bit specifically about California, like building codes and everything. Constantly changing codes. And I know that it's not making things easier for you. Whenever I travel to a state, let's say South Carolina or, one of those states over there, when I look at how they build homes, it's crazy. Like the difference between what is required here and what is required like in most other states. How does the fact that the code's always changing, how does that impact your industry?
It's very challenging. So there is a pause on the codes right now. So there's a 6-year pause on.
Oh, good.
There's a 6 years pause on the code. Now, this is the first time, at least in my career, that they've ever done this. Do I think it's really going to spur growth the way that they think it will? Not really. I do think, though, that it will affect construction cost, which is good, which might help with some of the growth. But I know the codes are going to come out. I mean, they come out every 3 years. So a year before the code comes out, we're already doing research. We're already figuring out, okay, what's going to be affected. There's some great books out there that come out a few months in advance. You get access to some of the early documents, some of the changes and all that kind of stuff. So it doesn't really affect us other than it's a scramble to get something submitted.
Yeah.
So on a planning side, on a time frame side, it's challenging because we have to tell a client, okay, you got to start making decisions a little faster because we need to get this thing submitted before the code changes. I think, that's kind of the biggest.
Is it more typical that when the code changes, it becomes more expensive, or there's, let's say newer hardware, bolts or whatever, right, in the foundation, more frequent hold downs and all that. Has there been any change that maybe went the other way?
Yes.
No.
No. And it's funny because most of these codes are written because of our job is to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the public.
Okay.
Right? So most of these are written based on some kind of liability. Either something happened or something will happen. A perfect example of that is the Berkeley balcony collapse that happened in 2010. And so then there was a new law that came out, Senate Bill 721, which said, okay, 15% of all balconies in California need to be inspected by January 1st of 2026. Alongside that, they also increased the live load, that needs to be applied to balconies. So before it was 40 pounds per square foot. Now it's 60 pounds per square foot. So most of this code happens because of something.
Something happens.
Now, you eventually get to that pendulum swing, right? Of, okay, now we've made things a little too conservative. We've restricted things too much. And, you look at permit fees now, or you look at home prices of homes, and you see that $150,000 of buying a home is really just permit costs and, state fees and whatever else it may be. So, it'll be interesting to see what happens, in the next 5 years. But there are some initiatives right now. There's some rollback in CEQA, which is California Environmental Quality Act. So there's some rollback around that. There are some loosening of minor things, but you have the state code and then you have the jurisdiction level. And those two don't really talk most of the time, especially around ADUs. We had a lot of problems around ADUs for a while because there was local jurisdictional code and then there was state code, and you had to choose one or the other. Well, some of them are more conservative in one parts and some are more lenient in other parts. And so when that whole thing happened about 3 or 4 years ago, when ADUs started getting more and more popular, it was very challenging at first because I had a lot of discussions with a lot of jurisdictions on how are you going to interpret this? And that's been challenging. One of the big initiatives that I'm trying to push right now, that I feel will have a pretty substantial impact on our community and homes, is almost like a fast track system for licensed architects to submit residential projects. Because at the end of the day, when you're licensed, you carry all the liability. Back to the difference between a drafter and an architect. A drafter does not have any liability, zero. Everything that they draw is called design intent, and there's nothing about that you can sue over. You can try, but a lawyer can say, well, it's just design intent. There's just lines on paper. Lines on paper for an architect are called instruments of service. And they're not just lines on paper. Everything I send out with my stamp on it is a legal document and it holds liability. So back to my point, why shouldn't architects be able to submit plans to a jurisdiction and not go through the 3-month process of jurisdictional review? That in and of itself, I think will spur growth, because if you hire an architect and I'm a developer and I want to build spec homes or whatever it may be, I hire an architect, I can shave 3, 4, sometimes 5 months off my time frame. We're pretty good at 1 round or less of plan check comments. I haven't run the metric for last year, but the year prior, 85% of our projects were completed in 1 round or less. Wow. That's still 3 months.
Yeah.
That's still a 3-month time frame. Every once in a while, we get a client that calls us that says, Nick, I'm in 7 rounds of plan check. It's been a year and a half, and I need you to come in. I need you to save the day. And so we've had that before too. But as a whole, if we can cut down some of that jurisdictional review, and I'm not talking planning, because there's a place for planning. Planning is very important. There's a place for building review too, but I think planning is very important because that's how we interact with the different spaces. And I don't want industrial factory right next to my house.
Yeah.
So planning is very important, right? There's cohesion there for neighborhoods. But building, we should be able to cut out most of that. And that's something I'm working on right now with AIA and Central Valley and Sac City specifically, so we can do proof of concept and then try to roll that out to other jurisdictions.
That's cool. Nick, so one of the things that has become a major issue in our industry, in the real estate industry, is when you look at like the cost of homes, like even like just regular starter homes, it used to be like 30, 40 years ago, an average home, a starter home, was maybe 2 times or 3 times the average annual income. Now it's like 9, or in some cases 10, right? So like especially for younger people, like the reality of buying a home, first home, is like so distant, and a lot of people are discouraged. And sometimes I kind of catch myself thinking like, okay, the homes are expensive, because why are they expensive? And I know that there's a lot that is kind of goes in when you develop a raw piece of land, right? First, it's all the the things that you have to do in order for that piece of land to be approved. You got to get all the connections. Then you got the school fees, permit fees, and then the construction part comes, right? Do you ever think about like, is there any way to like simplify that to bring down the cost, or do you think that we're so like this state, let's say, is so like deep into like in the woods as far as like different restrictions and different parties that you gotta grease their palm, and then also the code, we talked about the code a little bit earlier, like all these different, that is just all of this is contributing to homes end up costing so much, because now these developers and builders, they got to make some money too, right? So do you ever think about that? Do you think that there's a possible solution for this?
Yeah, and back to earlier when I said architects play a lot of different roles, lobbyist is also one of them. So I'm constantly talking to different council members, different, city officials, things like that, and telling them like, look, this is what needs to happen from our perspective. And the AIA does a really good job about this too, specifically the civic engagement team of, these are the things that we need to champion. This is what needs to happen if we want homes to be more affordable. If we want, I think mixed use, I think would play a major part in that, because we can eliminate a lot of the extra fees and different land development, fees that go into that.
So for those people who don't understand that term, can you just quickly
mixed
define?
use? Yeah. So mixed use is when you have two different types of uses. So you have residential on top, commercial on bottom, right? And then, so what creates a lot of this is these costs is the sprawl. When you have these neighborhoods and you have all this sprawl and you have the Melloroos and, all that stuff that goes along with it. And then on top of that, you have jurisdictional fees. But back to your question, is there something we can do about it, or something that is happening? Over the last few years, there's Senate Bill 9, which came out, which allows you to split a lot. There's requirements for the sizes of the two lots, but you can essentially split a lot over the counter. Whereas before, you'd have to go through this whole process, and now you can do a lot of it over the counter. So there are things in place where they're trying, but there's a lot of things outside of the control, and, construction costs and buying materials, all that kind of stuff is kind of out of local control. At a state level, they could definitely do a little bit more. And it really just starts with the fees. I mean, the amount of fees that you have to pay to do things. I mean, when you look at our fees, and when I say our, I'm talking about architects, engineers, all of that, you plan on spending around 6 to 10% of whatever your construction cost is on the design team. Well, if you look at the fees for just jurisdictional fees, I mean, they're basing it off the construction cost too, but it's generally much higher.
And they want their number, not what it's actually going to cost you, because they want to do the count, the market value.
Yep.
Right.
They have their tables and they have all their things, and they go, this is how much we want. Yeah.
I know. I've been there so many times. When we started flipping houses, I already told this story multiple times, different guests, but like I would come and pull a permit. And back then, a regular remodel for, let's say, a 1,500 square foot single story home was like $40,000, So in the box where it says valuation of the remodel, all right, $40,000. The guy looks at the number, like, no.
You need to prove this.
He goes back and I'm like, well, he's going to argue about what it's going to cost me to remodel the house.
Yeah.
He goes back, he talks to somebody, and then he shows me a number. He's like, this is the market value of the remodel. And it was like twice that. And then I realized, because they take a percent of that number. That's why they want that number to be higher.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah. I don't know. I just feel like a lot of people right now, especially like people in their, early 20s, mid 20s, and even some in 30s who haven't bought a home yet, they're hopeless. On top of that, look at the interest rates and all that. So I really hope and wish that there were some people who can make some change to really take that into consideration and do something about it, because it was normal for people to buy a home in their early 20s. Now, for most Americans, it's like it's not even a reality. So actually, my 12-year-old son, like I told you before we started this podcast, I mean, he really loves like home design and stuff. He like goes on Minecraft and he designs homes. What would you suggest like for someone that age to kind of get their feet a little wet, are there like certain, besides games, I don't want him sitting and playing games,
Sure.
but some kind of a maybe easy to use software or something where they can kind of practice?
It's funny because it's kind of both. The Sims is a game, but it is, you draw walls and you put in windows and you lay out floor plans and all of that. And that was my favorite game growing up, was playing The Sims. Now, it's funny because my son has asked me a few times, Dad, will you design a house in Minecraft with me? And this is like on a Saturday, I'm home and I'm like, I don't want to design. And then now my son is my client, so I've done it a few times. But Minecraft's really good for the kind of that imagination part of it, because it's almost like you're designing something within limitations, which is what we do anyways. The Sims, you have a little bit more freedom, but in Minecraft, you have blocks,
yeah,
and they're all the same size.
Yeah.
And then you have to take certain stairs or chests or whatever and use your imagination to create some of these other things. Like, this is whatever, but I built it out of whatever material they have in Minecraft. So Minecraft is really good for that. However, if somebody were interested in starting to learn architecture and starting to learn design, SketchUp. I think SketchUp. And SketchUp, when it first came out, used to be free. I don't know if it is anymore, but the problem with software is you're restricted by the software. Back to Frank Gehry. When you're crumbling paper and you're sketching, you get freedom. When you're in a software, I can't easily draw a shape in my software. I have to model it a very specific way, and I have to make sure that I'm, doing it dimensionally accurate and all these things. When you're sketching, you have absolute freedom to erase and move and iterate.
Yeah, you're right.
So I think the best approach, SketchUp, if, to start learning how to use some of these tools, but draw. Sketch.
I'm just going to go back and I'm going to go crumble some papers.
Go crumble some papers. Yeah, exactly. Get some clay, go crumble some papers. And, you can buy 11 by 17 paper with grids on there. And, every grid is a foot. Start laying out some floor plans. Start drawing. Yeah. That's actually a lost skill.
I know. I agree with you.
It's a lost skill because most drafters, designers, especially if they're younger, if you ask them, hey, give me a quick sketch on what you're thinking, they might as well have drawn it in the program, so then at least it was drawn. However, I actually challenged the team a lot with, nope, I want to see it drawn. I want to see a sketch on this.
Wow, that's good.
And I have an architect. There's a few architects that are ready to retire. Again, this is not a quick answer, but there's a few architects that are ready to retire that I've started to work with, because the value of an architecture firm when you go to sell it is me. It's the relationships that I have. It's not, our plans aren't proprietary. Somebody could print them out and copy them if they wanted to. That would be illegal. It's copyright infringement. However, so I've started working with a lot of architects and they hand draw everything. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start hand drawing everything. And then when I started hand drawing everything, now I want my team to start hand drawing everything, because there's so much more flexibility and iteration that you can do quickly.
There's something to it. I was looking at a house, and I think whoever lived there before was an architect, and he had all these blueprints. and they were very, very old.
Mm-hmm.
When I opened them up, bro, everything was hand drawn with pencil.
Could you imagine?
And I'm like, oh my goodness. Like, I mean, it just looks almost like perfect, but it's different when you see that it was actually done with pencil, hand drawn.
Well, and there's different line weights to it, thicknesses.
Yeah.
And
oh yeah.
earlier you mentioned architects that are stubborn in their ways. They were probably stubborn because they had to hand draw everything. You come to me with a change and say, hey, can we move this over a couple feet? And I know I'm going to have to draw this thing for the next 4 hours. I'm probably going to say no.
Oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
All right. So here are the rapid fire questions.
Okay.
Your favorite architectural style?
Prairie. Prairie is my favorite architectural style because, back to the atrium idea, Prairie is very much incorporating nature in the design. Frank Lloyd Wright, the Falling Waters house, like all that stuff is intentional to blend in with nature. They're organic shapes.
Cool. All right. One trend you would eliminate?
Let's see. A trend of our industry is, I would say, the ego and stubbornness. I think there needs to be a lot more flexibility in our industry.
That's great. I love that.
Design trend. I don't know if there's one. There certainly isn't one coming to my mind. But
when you go to a neighborhood, let's say Citrus Heights or Fair Oaks, Carmichael, those like older neighborhoods, smaller homes. Did you notice that those beams that stick out like 3 feet out,
the outriggers that
and
come out,
they are always dry rotted, always.
Yeah.
Whenever I purchased a home like that to flip, saw those beams, I'm like, all right, they gotta go. And like replacing them or like repairing them, it's hard. So like even that trend.
Oh, I'll tell you a trend that it's not on the same, but houses that are 6 feet away from each other, crammed on top of each other, the production style homes, I'd like for those to go away.
That means the homes are going to go up in price because now they're taking up more space. We're trying to solve that problem.
I know, we were trying to solve it, but you know what? I'm gonna sit on my pedestal on this one.
Okay, I agree with that. Favorite city for architecture?
Bozeman, Montana. I think it has a very unique characteristic to it. It's almost like some of the designs are almost like Scandinavian, where they have this almost kind of like I don't know how really to describe it.
I gotta check it out.
Yeah,
okay.
Yeah, you'll have to check it out.
All right. One piece of advice for someone building a custom home.
Ask your architect for clear expectations on the process. There's a big problem in our industry, I think, and when I say our industry, I'm meaning drafters and architects, that there's not a realistic expectation being set to win the job. And I've seen too many families, people opening their very first business that are doing a TI, get unrealistic expectations set, and then they're the ones footing the bill at the end, whether it's unrealistic timeframes, unrealistic costs, unrealistic expectations about who's going to be involved, what's going to be needed. So ask your architect or drafter for clear expectations up front.
Okay. And a project that you are most proud of?
Oh, that's an easy one. So, other than obviously your house that I'm working, I had the opportunity to work on a food bank in Rancho Cordova, and actually just won an award. And food banks have always been a very difficult thing for people. Usually you're standing out in a line. Sometimes it's raining. Sometimes you're in a car in a line in front of a truck. And this organization, the Rancho Cordova Food Locker, it's a grocery store. So, we call it a pantry, but it's a grocery store. You come in, you check in, you grab food off the shelves that you're actually going to eat. Maybe you have dietary restrictions and that you get your bag of groceries and you can't eat half of the things that are in there. You get to go in here. You get to grab stuff off the shelves that you're going to eat, your kids are going to eat, and then you go up to the counter, you weigh it, and then you get to take it home. So that is the project that I'm the most proud of. And I got the opportunity to work on it with LPAS, which is a pretty big architecture firm in our area as well. And so the collaboration around that project and the meaning that it's going to have to the community, the dignity that it's going to add to people's lives that need that kind of assistance, and they get to walk into a store just like everybody else and grab whatever they want. They also have a room for cooking classes, and it's a really cool project. So that one for sure is other than your home.
Wow. Well, that one has a deeper purpose.
It's very cool, and it should be opening here in the next few months. I think we had the ribbon cutting last month, and so it should be opening here soon.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I
Thank
really
you.
enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Thank
it
you
was
very
fun.
much.
I appreciate that. Thank you for having me. It was great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Never had somebody ask me so many questions. Or a microphone to go on my rants.
I didn't even get through all the questions. So
around maybe part 2.
Part 2. Yeah.
Part 2.
Sure. All right.
All right.
If you've made it this far and want to support what we're doing, subscribe to our YouTube channel. We are committed to making each episode better than the last. If you like this video, here's another one for you to watch. I'll see you in the next one.